Hello and welcome to Racers Now. In this video, we're taking an anti-post look at the Epsom Oaks to take place at Epsom in the first Friday in June the 6th. And with all the trials now in the bag, it's really time to get stuck into the next classic on the UK flat season. Godolphin's blockbuster start to the flat season may well be extended up to and including Epsom this year, as they have the Oaks favourite at the moment in Desert Flower, and they also have the chief Derby contender or a chief Derby contender in Ruling Court. More of that race and that horse in a separate video, but I mean, Desert Flower was head and shoulders above her rivals in the 1,000 guineas. Only 9 rivals this year, pretty small field in the 1,000 guineas, just the 10 runners. But Desert Flower pretty much dominated the race, to be honest. And as a result of that performance, that winning performance in the Oaks, she tops in the Guineas, she tops the Oaks market at 3-1. A race that is over 4 furlongs further than the Guineas. So it is a big step up in trip for any horse that goes from a Guineas, whether that be a filly or a colt, to the Oaks or the Derby. It is a big step up in trip, 50%. It's a case of running style versus breeding when we are posed with the question, will Desert Flower stay the Oaks trip? Because she's a mile winner at 2. She runs in an uncomplicated and settled manner, well balanced, looks tactically versatile. She won the Guineas pretty much from the front. She doesn't have to do that. She didn't do that as a juvenile as much. So from those factors, I would say it looks like she stays. There's many ingredients there to suggest that she would be okay going 1.5 miles around Epsom, but her breeding would scream that it's the opposite. A breeding by Night of Thunder out of Promising Run, a Godolphin horse in her own right. Both were very, very close, if not 100% close, to fitting in the out-and-out miler box, the pair of them. Night of Thunder, a Lockinge winner, a Guineas winner in his own right, and Promising Run was best. She was seen at her best over a mile throughout her career. So yeah, her breeding screams out-and-out mile, but a racing style and the fact that she won over a mile as a juvenile suggests that she might be able to stretch out to that 1.5 miles for Epsom, maybe with a view to stepping back to 10 furlongs later in her career. I think for both the Oaks and the Derby nowadays, you don't need to be an out-and-out 1.5 mile horse like you used to be. And the reason I think that is because there are less and less horses now bred and now in training in the UK and Ireland that are bred to be out-and-out 1.5 mile horses. Many of them that are in existence are trained in Ballydoyle, but away from Aidan O'Brien, who I'm sure we'll come on to as we do for every big Group 1 race in the UK and Ireland, there's just not that many horses that are bred to be 1.5 mile horses nowadays in the UK, particularly in the UK, and you can extend that to Ireland. So as a result of less and less 1.5 mile horses being available to run in the Oaks or the Derby, I think you can win the Oaks or the Derby without truly being a 1.5 mile horse, win it, and then drop back to 10 furlongs thereafter. That's how I see it anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. In the immediate aftermath of the 1,000 Guineas win, Charlie Appleby, trainer of Desert Flower, said Ascot or further. So it's either, so that would mean Ascot for the Coronation Stakes, which is over a round mile at Ascot, Royal Ascot, or stepping up to 1.5 miles at Epsom. That was his answer when he was asked about her next assignment. I could see her staying 1.5 miles, before, like I said earlier, dropping back to 10 furlongs thereafter, races like the Nassau and other races potentially like that. I mean, like we saw at Epsom, Desert Flower might just be a class apart of the rest of the field as she was in the Guineas. She might well be just a class, might follow her through, and a simplistic style of racing, doesn't waste a lot of energy, high cruising speed, travels well, can do it from the front. That might just be enough to see her win an Epsom Oaks, and then, like I say, drop back maybe to 10 furlongs thereafter. Her form in the book so far is by far and away the best form of any horse that's in the Oaks. And I think her current price of 3-1 is mainly built on the stamina conundrum that will be answered in due course. Of the other contenders in the market, the Pretty Polly Stakes at Newmarket on Guineas weekend, on 1,000 Guineas Day, as a matter of fact, is not necessarily an official Oaks trial, but certainly looked like one this year, as this Falakayar pretty much dominated every yard up the rolling mile, 10 furlongs up the rolling mile course. Yeah, for Owen Burrows, really, really impressive to me. Just on first viewing, without going into the nuts and bolts of the form and who was behind. She just dominated all over the field, led for nearly all the way. It was only just a second start. She graduated from a Wolverhampton maiden in November to listed glory in that Pretty Polly Stakes in glory. Fantastic style, really, really, really dominating, travelled really well. Travelled like a really, really good horse. Unlike some of the trials that we're going to discuss in this video, this race, the Pretty Polly, had some decent yardsticks in there on ratings. A couple of horses that were already rated in the 90s, unlike some of the trials we're going to come on to. And the Owen Burrows filly just galloped all over them. I thought she was getting a bit lonely. It was only a second start, lonely late on, into the dip, out the dip, getting lonely rather than showing vulnerabilities, rather than showing questionable stamina, was emptying at the end of that race. I don't think that was the case. I just think she was getting lonely. She was on a second start. She'd ran completely alone for approximately 1 mile, which is some going in that wide, vast open space at Newmarket, again on just her second start. A trainer, Owen Burrows, was far from committed to the Oaks for her next start. Inexperience may be a factor. So participation question marks are factored in to Falakear's current price of 9-1. But really interesting horse wherever she goes next. I thought she looked really, really good in that Pretty Polly, winning by over 3 lengths. Aidan O'Brien, of course, is a subject on many of our anti-post videos, particularly the classics. But he had a pretty quiet Guineas meeting by his ridiculously lofty standards. But the Ballydoyle Brigade have been well and truly out in force in the Epsom, Derby and Oaks trials in the recent weeks since the Guineas. 3 recognised Oaks trials in the UK, all won by Aidan O'Brien. Mini Hawk in the Cheshire Oaks, Giselle in the Lingfield Oaks trial, and Whirl in the Musadora Stakes at York. In that order, they currently fill positions 2, 3 and 5 in the anti-post market. And just while we're at it, Aidan O'Brien also trains horses that are in positions 6, 7 and 8 in the Oaks market. So that's the 2nd favourite, the 3rd favourite, the 5th favourite, the 6th favourite, the 7th favourite and the 8th favourite for the Epsom Oaks are all trained by Aidan O'Brien, for the record. But we've seen this many times before. We've seen this film many times before. He has won 6 of the last 10 renewals of the Oaks, so was clearly always going to be a major factor ahead of this year's renewal. Mini Hawk won the Cheshire Oaks, but she's yet to post an RPR, a Racing Post rating of over 100 in her 3 starts, 2nd on a debut, and then has won the next twice, most recently in that Cheshire Oaks. I mean, I don't think she beat anything that day at all, to be honest. I mean, would Mini Hawk, currently 9-1, would she be Aidan O'Brien's number 1 on the day? I think not. Although history does tell us that being the number 1 horse for Aidan O'Brien on the day, i.e. ridden by Ryan Moore, might not actually matter that much. Usually has multiple runners, and often the one not ridden by Ryan Moore goes on to win in both the Oaks and the Derby. But I do think Mini Hawk has got to take a jump in form, a big jump forward to be winning the Oaks, in my opinion. But you wouldn't put it past him or her, would you? Whirl was Aidan's winner of the Musadora Stakes. She put a name into the hat for the Oaks in impressive fashion, really. I mean, just on the face of it, she won the Musadora by 5.5 lengths, which is pretty good, really, you would say. But she looked like a bit of a grinder to me, rather than something with star quality. It was just on her 2nd start of her career. So you know, that's taking 2nd on just her 2nd career start. So yeah, take some doing. But yeah, I'm not sure about the form there of Whirl in the Musadora. I mean, she wasn't all that last year, to be honest. She was it took her 3 goes to win a maiden. That came at Doncaster in September. And then she did step up to win a Group 3 at the end of last season. She was 2nd choice O'Brien on that day. And then she returned earlier this season, Whirl, in early April, possibly with a view to going to the Guineas. Didn't get anywhere near in that. She was 6 of 9, but still was sent off, a short price favourite. Although she drifted for the Musadora, out to 7-2. She was a short price favourite in and around 11-8 early doors in that market for the Musadora. I think that was based on the fact that Aidan O'Brien had just mopped up all of the trials, both fillies and colts. But she did drift all the way out to 7-2. She was in the van pretty much throughout in the Musadora by Ryan. I like it when he leads forward, when he rides forward and rides prominently. And yes, she just bounded clear. So on the face of it, 5.5 lengths win of the Musadora trained by Aidan O'Brien looks pretty decent, but I really do not know what is in behind. I mean, the second in the Musadora was just on her second career start. The third and fourth were rated 89 and 86 officially, respectively. And the well-backed Smokin, trained by Ralph Beckett, trailed in 32 lengths behind Whirl in dead last. So I don't think that Musadora form is up to much on the face of it, but we'll find out in time. And that Smokin being pretty much tailed off last is a theme of Ralph Beckett's classic contenders this season. More on that later. Anyway, part owner Michael Tabor of Whirl said in the aftermath that she might be one for the French Oaks rather than the English one. So do factor that in to your calculations when considering a bet in the Oaks. Giselle is a horse I've spoken about here on the channel before and written about. She is the single horse I was most looking forward to this year for the 2025 flat season. An exciting prospect to me after a disjointed 2-year-old campaign, which saw her debut in June when she was second behind Bedtime Story, a certain Bedtime Story who went on to win the Chesham at Royal Ascot by, I think, 9 lengths. So Giselle was second behind her on debut. She had a midsummer setback, which meant we didn't see Giselle again until October, where she caught the eye of many, albeit odds on in a maiden, but she won in really, really impressive fashion that day. And then she just really smooth progress, past most of the field in the blink of an eye. She next came back to the Curragh just 17 days later for a Group 3, where again she was odds on and given a very, very soft learning type ride to be in third that day by Ryan Moore. Disappointing for her backers on the day. I wasn't one of them, but definitely a run full of promise. That was her last start in her 2-year-old campaign. Then Giselle returned in the Lingfield Oaks trial. It was just a free runner Lingfield Oaks trial, which pretty much is a disgrace. But that's maybe one for another day. She was sent off actually 100-30 on. So she was 30-100. And she did a fair bit wrong, actually, Giselle, at Lingfield, as far as I could see. She might have left more questions than answers. She took at least half a mile to settle, as far as I could see. Was that because she's not straightforward, or was it because it was a very small field against inferior opposition? But the fact that she wore a first-time hood there in the Lingfield Oaks trial might be an indication that she's not quite as straightforward as some of her stable mates. So that's something to factor in. When entering the straight, it was clear that Giselle was going to win. She was clearly travelling better than the others, but she was pretty green. She kind of raced away from the other two, even though there was only 3 runners. They kind of split apart in the straight, and she was a little bit green when politely asked by Ryan Moore to quicken. She did have her head carriage a little bit awkward for more than a few strides, to be fair, if you watch it back. But when Ryan properly asked Giselle for an effort in the final furlong and a half at Lingfield, she did really settle down, knuckle down, quickened, and got down to business and scooted clear. She really did scoot clear. She was 100-30 on. She was meant to win. She did win. She was about 20-25 to 1 going into that. She was cut to 12-1 for the Oaks on the back of that. Depending on what Mr. Ryan Moore rides, we'll touch on that later. This Giselle could easily be 6-1 or 20-1 on the day, just on that effort, because at Lingfield, it really did leave more questions than answers to a lot of people. I really like it, but there was a few things there. Not settling early doors, pretty green when asked, head carriage, some question marks there. She's still very much in the could be anything box, is Giselle. But it's fair to say she won't be anywhere near. She's a current price of 12-1. She won't be anywhere near that if, as I am predicting, Ryan Moore rides her. You could fairly comment that all 3 of the Aidan O'Brien inmates, Giselle, Mini Hawk, and Whirl, and there is others in the market, as we've mentioned. Lake Victoria's in there, disappointing in the Guineas. Is she an Oaks type? Not for me. Ballet Slippers is in there, still at 16-1, but she's not been seen this year. Similar comments could apply to Dreamy. So I'm not really talking about those guys at the moment. The ones I'm talking about are Giselle, Mini Hawk, and Whirl. You could argue that all 3 of them in their trials, in winning their trials, have beat absolutely nothing. But there is a potential of special, there's a sprinkling of special quality about Giselle that I am drawn to, and I may or may not be proven wrong or right on the first Friday in June. But I'm drawn to Giselle. I still think that she could be pretty special. At bigger prices, nothing stands out at all at this stage, simply because they were all beaten too far or a long way in the races we have spoken about in this video. Falakayar won by a distance. Whirl won by a distance. Giselle won by 9 lengths at 100 to 30. Mini Hawk kind of dominated. It was only a length, but never really looked in danger. So they've all won by that far that it's hard to really take an eye catcher out of the race or something that may improve or was unlucky. They've all been pretty straightforward, these Oaks trials. So there's nothing to take out at this stage at bigger prices as far as I'm concerned. There's 47 entered in the race at the moment. We already saw a small field in the Guineas, just 10 in the Guineas. So we could see a reasonably small field in the Oaks as well. I mean, for example, Ralph Beckett, who's been going up and up and up in recent years, has 10 fillies currently entered amongst the 47 for the Epsom Oaks. 4 of them are yet to run this season. So it's very difficult to see a horse that has not ran by the middle of May to be running and going close in an Oaks. So you can probably write any horse that's not ran this year so far to be running in the Oaks. The 4 that he's had 4 runners, 4 of those 10 entries have ran this season, and they've been closer to last than first. None of Ralph Beckett's 10 entries have actually won a turf race this season at all between all 10 of them. So what we're saying is the field's going to be whittled down. I mean, in addition to that, Aidan O'Brien has 16 of the 47 entered at this stage. Many of them will be whittled down. As I mentioned earlier, Ballet Slippers, Dreamy, January, there'll be others have not even raced this season at all. So it's hard to see them lining up in an Oaks, having not been seen yet. But at this stage, it is worth mentioning one at a bigger price, not for one of the main 2 yards, if you like, Appleby and O'Brien, and that is Al Wateen. Deserves a mention at this stage for sure. This, trained by Saeed bin Saror, debuted in a lowly Kempton novice race last August, then put away for the season. She won on debut at 4 to 6, put away for the season, made her second ever career start in the 1,000 Guineas itself, where she was a more than respectable 4th. Desert Flower did dominate that race, but it was all pretty close behind her in the chasing pack, if you like. This Albertine is crying out for further. She could be a danger away from the big 2 stables. Again, with that inexperience, we don't know how good she is. We're hopefully going to find out. Note of caution on Al Wateen, needs supplementing for the race. Trained by Saeed bin Saror, you usually 99.9% of the time see him training in the Godolphin colours, but Al Wateen goes in the Hamdan colours, trained by Saeed bin Saror. Was a bit of an eye catcher in the Newmarket 1,000 Guineas. Go and watch that back. But in conclusion, I do think that Giselle, I think she'll be the number 1 Ballydoyle runner come the 6th of June. I do play Aidan O'Brien bingo. I think she'll be the number 1 runner. I think that if she is the number 1 runner, that will mean that Ryan Moore will ride her, and she's available currently at 12 to 1. And I think with Moore on board, she will be at least half that price. Regardless of whether Ryan rides her or not, I just think she's got that sprinkling of special about her, or could be special. There's a few things to iron out with experience, with some more sun on her back. The sun's glaring across the UK and Ireland at the moment. Hopefully, they can straighten her out. It's a very long way from a Lingfield Oaks trial with 3 runners at 100 to 30 on to an Epsom Oaks. I completely accept that, but I do think she could be special. I've had my eye on her for a while, and at 12 to 1, I think she's too big at the moment. A, with the potential improvement factor, and B, I do think, I've got a feeling Ryan Moore will ride her, and she'll be the Ballydoyle number 1. She'll be off the price she is now. Plus, there's a small chance, admittedly, it is quite small, there's a small chance that the favourite might not run and instead go to Ascot. Remember, Desert Flower, out of a miler, by a miler, and Charlie Appleby is on record. It will be Ascot or Epsom. So there's a slight chance. I do think she'll run at Epsom, to be fair, Desert Flower, but there's a slight chance she might not. And if she does, the prices of the others will tumble, and that may include Giselle. So I'm on Giselle. Let me know in the comments what you're on. We'll also be covering the Derby and all the big races here on Races Now. SD's Daily Tips every morning on Twitter at around 8 o'clock. And of course, our Thursday betting show. Looking forward to all the best races every single week, every Thursday, published on YouTube. SD giving you plenty of winners, and I'll try and give a winner or 2 along the way as well. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back soon here on Races Now.